Hello everybody and welcome back, and we have officially started our intermediate section, and we are starting it off with the download of the virtual machine called Metasploitable. Now, as you can see, I am downloading it right now from the Rapid 7 website. Now, it might ask you, let me just show you. If you go and type here in your Google search bar, if you type here Metasploitable and click on the first link, it will ask you before you can download the Metasploitable to make an account. So basically, in order to submit, you need to submit some of these informations in order to download the Metasploitable from the Rapid 7 website. Now, if you do not want to specify any information, you can just go onto some other website, which is basically, I just clicked on this one, and you can download it from here. So you just click here on download, and in a few seconds your download will start. Now, the Metasploitable zip file is around 800 megabytes large. Let me just close this one, since I don't need to download it 2 times. As you can see, I am here already downloading it, so we will wait until that finishes, and then we will build the virtual machine into our VirtualBox. Now, if you are asking what is Metasploitable, well, basically the Metasploitable is an intentionally vulnerable virtual machine which we will use in order to test our further attacks and scans. Now, we use this machine because scanning any website you do not have permission to scan can be illegal and you shouldn't be doing it. So this is also a dangerous machine, so you shouldn't expose it to any network you do not trust. For example, you should only keep it over net or host only. Don't connect it to a bridge adapter and connect it to a local network, since it is purposely made vulnerable and there is a bunch of holes in this machine. Now, we will not be explaining all of the vulnerabilities that this machine has, but we will cover some of them. And basically, I will just wait for this to finish, and once it finishes, I will show you how to install the virtual machine. And my download has finished, so what you want to do right now is basically this zip file, just copy and paste it onto your desktop. So once you got it on your desktop, which is right here, what you want to do is basically extract this file. Since it is a zip file, we want to extract it. I will use WinRAR to do that. So this will take a few seconds, and after it is finished, we can proceed with the making of our Metasploitable. You will notice, once it is done, that we will get 5 files, I believe, in this folder, and we are only interested in one, which is basically the .vmdk file, which we will use as a hard disk for this virtual machine. Now, this is finished, and you can see right here, if we open it, there are 5 files, and we will use this one. I will show you right here how to put it into a virtual machine. So basically, just for the sake of the making, just click on the new virtual machine, and here you can type here any name you want. So I will just call it vulnerable, and here you want to pick as a type of operating system, you want to choose Linux. In the version type, you want to go scroll down. Let me just find it, scroll down and pick other Linux. Once you have these options picked, you just click on the next option, and here we have the memory size. Now, the memory size for the Metasploitable should be at least 512 megabytes, and it will work fine on the 512, but I would advise you to, if you have the spare RAM memory, you can just put here 1 gigabyte, as it will work better. But if you do not have, you just leave it on 512 and it will also work fine. Now, keep in mind that you will be running 2 virtual machines, one is Kali Linux and one is Metasploitable, once we run our tests, so be aware that you will need also RAM memory in order to run your main machine. So if you do not have enough memory, just leave here 512. Now, once you picked your memory size, just click here on next, and under this option, you want to go to the use an existing virtual hard disk. Here you just want to go on the choose a virtual hard disk file, and you basically just want to find the Metasploitable, which in my case is right here. Let me just see why it won't work. Does not match the value in the media registry. What do you mean it does not match the value? Well, it doesn't even matter. There is some error for me. It doesn't really matter. I believe that is because I already have Metasploitable installed. For you, you just find your Metasploitable vmdk file, which for me is right here, and you just click on that one, you choose it, and you shouldn't have this inaccessible, it is only for me. So once you do that, you just click here on create and you have your virtual machine made. Now once you have this, you just basically just click on here start. Now for me it will pop up an error, but for you it will just start the process of installing the virtual machine, and I don't think it will ask you any questions. Only at the end it will ask you for the username and password, which I've written it right here. The username is msfadmin and the password is also msfadmin. So once it asks you for the username and password, just type here msfadmin and you should be logged into the virtual machine, into your Metasploitable. Now keep in mind, it won't have a desktop like Windows or our Kali Linux, it will just be a command line, since it is not a GUI made virtual machine. So you will be able to execute any commands that you execute in the Kali Linux terminal, and it is basically all of the things you will be able to do. Now we will continue with the scanning in the next lecture, where we will be using one of the most known tools in Kali Linux, which is called Nmap. I will show you a bunch of different scans you can do with it, but until then I hope you're having a great day and I will see you later. Hello everybody and welcome back, and in this tutorial we will finally start covering some of the basics of the Nmap program. Now, as I said before, the Nmap is a really important tool that you will use all the time, so it is essential for you to at least learn some of the basics of that program. Now, before we begin, I want to say that Nmap, it is a network mapper. It is basically a free and open source tool, mostly used for vulnerability scanning and network discovery. You can also use the Nmap to identify some of the devices or all of the devices that are running on your local network, also as discovering hosts that are on or offline at the moment, and discovering services they offer on some of the ports that they have open. And also you can go as far as discovering what version of software are they running on their open ports. Now, Nmap can be used to scan multiple hosts. It doesn't have to be only one host that you scan. It is basically working by just sending the raw packets to the system ports. Now, as it does that, it basically listens to responses and determines whether the ports are closed or open, or filtered in some way, for example with a firewall. Now, you can use different types of protocols. In Nmap, you can use TCP, UDP, ICMP, and SCTP. Now, as I said before, Nmap is a network mapper. It can also be used to detect the operating system that is running on the machine that you're scanning, and also discover the vulnerabilities if there are for that particular version of the software they're running on an open port. Now, a system, your and my PC, can have 65,535 TCP and UDP ports, but Nmap will by default only scan the most commonly used 1,000 ports. Now you can change that as well, so you can scan all the 65,000 ports, but it will probably take a lot longer than the regular 1,000 ports. Now, before we begin using Nmap, I just want to show you first of all how you can run it, which is basically just open your terminal in Kali Linux. It is already pre-installed in it, and you can just type here Nmap. Now you will see that it will print out a bunch of the options that we will cover, but before we do that, I just want to give you a more detailed explanation on the IP addresses, because you will be using them extensively in here. Now, with an IP address, if you know someone's IP address, you can basically do a lot with it. For example, let's open up our Firefox and let us type right here the major IP. You will click on the first website that this one opens, and we'll basically just copy any IP address that we find, and we will try to find out the most information we can about that IP. So let me just load up the website. Here we go. Now click on the first one, which is major IP addresses blocks by country dash Nearsoft. So it is on the Nearsoft website. Here you can basically click any country you want. Let's go with the Australia. Not really a smart choice since it is the most far away country from me, but and here just pick any IP address you want. Let's say I pick this one, which is 14.192.160.0. If I copy this IP address and I go to my terminal, let me just clear the screen right here, and I use a tool called NSLOOKUP. As you can see, with this tool I will need to specify the IP address that I just copied, which is this one, and it should return the name of that web server in return. So if I type here, right here, it will say server can find. Okay, so it cannot find that one. Not a big deal. Let us just copy the other one and check if that one works instead. So we just paste the other IP address and it won't work. Now let me just show you on the IP address that will work for sure. So if you type here nslookup google.com, it will return the Google's IP address with this command. As you can see right here, the address of Google will be 172.217.19.110. Now you can do the same in reverse. So if you type here nslookup and instead of typing the google.com, you type here the IP address of google.com, you will see in return what is the name of that IP address. Now this is taking some time. Let us just wait a little bit before we close it. It says timeout, so let me try it once again. So nslookup, and then I paste here the IP address of Google. Yeah, it will probably time out once again. So let me just type here nslookup and let's try facebook.com. Here we can see that the Facebook's IP address is 32.13.84.36. So let's try in reverse. So let me just type here nslookup and then the Facebook's IP address, and hopefully it will return the facebook.com in the output. No, weird, because it says no servers could be reached. Let me just try to ping it. Maybe, but we are on the internet, so it should work. Not really sure why it doesn't work at the moment, but it doesn't really matter. Instead, we can try other command, which can be also used to get some of the informations from an IP address. Now that tool that we will use is called curl. Now, for example, let me show you. If you type here curl IP info, let me just see, yeah, .io, and then slash. Let me just find the slash. Where is it? There it is. And then you paste the Facebook's IP address right here, and you click on it. You press enter. Basically it will say that the IP that we typed here, host name is facebook.com, city not specified, region not specified, country is specified, and location is also given in coordinates. Organization, as it says right here, is Facebook. So since nslookup didn't work, we will use curl. So let me just look up the Google's IP address once again, so we can see the curl command with the Google's IP address. So let me just type here curl ipinfo.io and then slash, and then you type here the Google's IP address. And as you can see, we also get the host name, we also get the organization Google, location also given in the coordinates, and the country US. So let us just now choose any of these IP addresses right here, but let's not go with the Australia, let's go with the Belgium. And here we just copy any IP address, let's copy this one. Let me try the NS lookup, maybe it will work right now, probably not, but let's give it one more try. Server can find, okay, doesn't matter, we will go on with the curl. So we copy the random IP address that we do not know anything about, and we just type here ipinfo.io/ and then we paste the IP address that we copied, which should belong to Belgium. So as we see right here, we are given the IP, the city, the region, the country, location, also given in the coordinates, postal code, organization, which we can confirm since it says for this IP address right here that the Mac Telecom, and we get the same result right here. Now you can see that you can find a lot of stuff with simply just looking up the IP address. And there is also one more thing you can do in the search engine. You can just type here IP locator. And we can use the same IP address that we copied from here, which is this one, 80.91.144.0, and we will just pick the first site, which will hopefully locate our IP address. If we type here paste, and we go on the IP lookup, we can see right here that we get the location of the IP, which is Belgium, and it is correct. We also get the latitude and longitude, which we can check if it matches this one. So let us just go down here. It is the same, basically it is the same in every decimal. So this program is working. So let me just see if we can check out on a map where it is located. But we can just simply go on any Google map and just type here these coordinates, and we will find out where this IP address is physically located. Now that we saw what we can do with the IP addresses, we can open up our Nmap for now on. So if you just type here Nmap, you will see again a bunch of those options, but we will start off with these examples right here. So as you can see right here, they put an example nmap -v-a scanme.nmap.org. Now it is important to mention that Nmap scanning on the device you do not own or do not have permission to scan is illegal in most of the countries, I believe. So you should not be scanning any website or any device that you do not have permission to scan. And it can also be very noisy, so you can be caught by firewall. So you are not anonymous with this, especially not with the basic commands. Now later on we can cover how to be more quiet while using Nmap and scanning, but you should only be doing it if you have permission to scan to. Now if you go on to this website, you will notice that if we copy it, let me just open Firefox once again, and we will paste that website, you will see that they give us the permission to use that website in order to practice with Nmap. So let us just wait for this to load up, and it should be prompting us with a message that will basically said, go ahead and scan me, as you can see right here. So here it says, hello and welcome to scanme.nmap.org. We set up this machine to help folks learn about Nmap and also to test and make sure that their Nmap installation is working properly. You are authorized to scan this machine with Nmap or other port scanners. Try not to hammer on the servers too hard. A few scans in a day is fine, but don't scan 100 times a day. Or use this site to test your SSH brute force password cracking tool. So we basically have permission to scan this. Now don't overscan it, as it says right here, don't scan it over 100 times a day. Basically you can scan it a few times a day. So we will just type here nmap -v -a scanme.nmap.org. But before we run this command, I just want to check out or to show you what does -v and -a do. Now -a, as we can see right here, enable OS detection, version detection, script scanning, and trace route. While -v, I'm not sure if it is even listed here. It possibly is and possibly not. Here it is, increase verbosity level. It basically means it will print out what it is doing in the process of scanning. So if you type here -vb, it will print out even more information in the process of scanning. Now, we won't be using any of these options at the moment. We will just type here nmap scanme.nmap.org. And this can take time. Any scan can take time from few seconds to multiple hours, depending on multiple things such as the speed of your connection and also the location of the target that you're scanning, and also the number of targets that you're scanning. As we said before, you can scan multiple targets with Nmap, and that will take longer than scanning just one target. If you just press the arrow upwards right here, we can see what percentage of scan is finished. So we can see that 7.4% is done, and here it will give us an information that one host is. So for example, if you were to scan 100 hosts and here it says 22 hosts up, it means that the Nmap retrieved 22 hosts to be online or up and working. Now, as you can see, the Nmap scan result is finished, and here we see a bunch of ports. Some of them are filtered and some of them are open. As we said, the filtered ones could be protected in some of the way, such as with a firewall, while the open ones are basically just open, such as HTTP. As we saw basically when we visited this website, we basically used the HTTP port, which is open, so we were able to connect to this website. There are other ports that are also open, such as SSH port, which is the 22 always, TCP port. You can see some of the hard ports open, such as 9929 and 31337, which is for Elite, and nping-echo, and other ports are just filtered. So this is just a basic scan with Nmap. We will continue with some of the more advanced scans in the next lecture, and I hope I see you there. Bye. Hello everybody and welcome back. Now this is the part 2 tutorial of the Nmap program. In the previous one I basically just show you what you can do with an IP address and what information you can gather only by knowing someone's IP address. And we also ran a simple scan on the Nmap scanme.org website, which basically allows us to do the scan there, so you should only be scanning either that site or any machine you do own, since Nmap scans could be illegal in your country. Also, before we begin, I just want to, let me just type here once again Nmap to show all the available options. Let me perform the same scan we did before, which is just Nmap scanme.nmap.org, and basically if you wanted to, for example, write this to a file, you just specify two arrows right here, and then we call the file results.txt, for example. Now this will take, as previous time, a few seconds, and it won't give us the output right here. It will basically save all of the output into a results.txt file. So it is useful if you, for example, run this scan for multiple hours and you don't need to keep the terminal open in order to see the scan. You can just basically save it into a file and you can access it anytime and anywhere. So you don't, for example, run a scan on multiple hosts and run it for 5 hours and then you accidentally close the terminal and basically the entire scan is lost and you need to redo it once again. So as you can see right here, the scan has finished and it hasn't given us any output. So let me just clear the screen and type here ls. And as you can see right here, we have the results.txt file. If we cat that results.txt file, we will get the same output that we got in the previous video with our results printed out into this file. Now, since we know that, we can delete this file right now and we can type here nmap once again. Now, I won't be scanning the scanme.nmap.org anymore. I will be scanning basically my Windows machine right now. So you can continue scanning this site. You can also scan the Metasploitable that we installed in the previous lectures, and you can also scan your host machine. Now let me just show you. You can also scan yourself if we just check our IP address right here, 192.168.1.6, and you type here 192.168.1.6. I don't believe any port. Yeah, all ports, all 1000 scanned ports are closed. So on this Kali Linux virtual machine I'm not having any port open, and that should be on yours as well, for now on at least. And as I said in the previous video, the Nmap only scans the top 1000 used ports. So if you want to, for example, specify the number of ports you want to scan, or for example you want to scan all 65,000 ports, let me just find the option. Here it is, port specification and scan order. We can do that with -p. So how we do that? Well, basically we just type here nmap -p, and then we type here 1 to 65,000, and we can just do 65,000, or we can do all 65,535. I believe that's how many there are. And then we specify again our own IP address, and this will take longer to finish, but instead of scanning only 1000 ports, it will scan all 65,535 ports. And it will finish relatively fast since we are scanning ourselves, and it only finished in 1.5 seconds. So now we won't be scanning ourselves anymore since there is no point, so let me just find out what the IP address of my Windows machine is. So I will type here in my command prompt ipconfig, and the IP address of my host machine is 192.168.1.4. So I will just type here nmap 192.168.1.4, and let's see how fast this will finish. It shouldn't take too much of our time, so let me just check here. Alright, it will finish, and we can see there are a few ports open right here. The NetBIOS, SSN, Microsoft DS, and MS RPC, which are these three ports. They are all three open. As you can see, they're all over TCP. Now, for example, let's scan again my host machine. But right now, let us scan all 65,000 ports. So 65,535, I believe that's the maximum number of ports. And we type here the IP address of our Windows machine. Now let me just... oh yes, I only specified that this should scan this port. I should specify a range of ports, so 1-65,535. And we press here enter. Now this will take a little bit longer than the 1000 port scan, so let us see where it is right now. Yeah, it is only on 4%. You can check out the process of scan with the upper arrow. If you didn't specify right here the -v, which stands for the verbose, which will basically just print you this right here as it goes with the scan. I didn't specify it, so it doesn't print anything before the scan. So let me just show you. We will finish this so we don't wait until it's over. So let me just put here, let's just type nmap once again, and we can see right here that the -v command stands for increase verbosity level, use double V, which is basically -VV, in order to see more details. So let's run the same command, but with 1000 ports. So let me just type here nmap 192.168.1.4, and basically just double V. So here you can see that as it goes with the scan, it prints out the information, and at the end it prints out the same thing that it printed out before. So here we can see as it went, it concluded that there is one host that is up, and as it discovered the open ports, it printed out for us. Now this can be useful if you want to find out open ports on a host that will take an hour to scan, or for a range of hosts. So let me just show you how you can scan a range of hosts. For example, let's scan your entire local network. You can see right here that the second command in the examples shows us how to specify the range of hosts. So as you can see right here, 192.168.0.0/16. This will basically scan the first 16 hosts in the local network. Now, we know in my local network, since my subnet mask is 255.255.255.0, there are only 255 hosts available, so we will just specify all of them. Let me just type here nmap, and then we'll type here 192.168.1.1/255. And let us just put here the F, the capital F, which stands for basically doing this scan faster, so we do not waste a lot of time. So let me just press enter right here. Now let me just check once again, since this didn't work. Maybe I specified wrong. Well, basically gave me some error. Let me just redo this command, but not like this. Let me just type here instead of /, so right now it should work. But let's also add the option verbosity, so it prints us everything as it goes. We can see that it actually finished relatively fast. That is probably because we specified right here the -F option, which basically makes the scan finish faster. And we can see that all of these hosts are down. We can see that between these two there was one that is up, which is .15. That is my laptop that is currently running. So as we go down here, it should find, we found our router. Here it is, so 192.168.1.1. It also found our Windows host machine, which is my current Windows 10 machine on as my host operating system. As you can remember, here are the 3 open ports on my host machine. It found my laptop, which only has the Apache 2 running on the HTTP port over TCP. And it also found our virtual machine, which is 192.168.1.6, which has none of the ports open. So the Nmap result finished with 255 IP addresses scanned, and 4 hosts were up, scanned in 6.06 seconds. Now, let's also, for example, if you want to write that into a file, you can do that with the double arrow command and also into the results.txt. As we saw in the previous video, it won't give you any output, but it will write your scan into the results.txt file, so you don't have to redo the scan once again later if you close the terminal. So it should finish in a few seconds, I believe, and we will have a file with all 255 machines scanned. As you can see, it has finished, and if we get the results.txt, we will get the same output as in the previous scan. Now, this is about it for this lecture. We will continue with some of the more aggressive scans and more specified and detailed scans in the next lecture, which will also be Nmap. We will cover how to get the version of a software running on a specific port. For example, we will find out how to get the version of my Apache 2 on my laptop, which is running over HTTP. As you can see right here, we don't get the version specified, but it is an important option because it allows us to find out the version of a software which can be used in order for us to find out any vulnerabilities for that particular software. So I hope I see you in the next lecture, and take care. Hello everybody, and welcome back to the part 3 tutorial of Nmap. Now we will cover some of the more advanced scans that we will use in order to figure out, for example, the version of process running on a particular open port. So let us just type here once again Nmap in order to see our available options, and let's, for example, try to detect the operating system running on my Windows machine. Now, as in the previous video, the IP address of my Windows machine is 192.168.1.4. So we will find here the option for the operating system, which is, I believe, -O. Here we go. It says enable OS detection. Now you can add some of the specific options, as it says right here, OSS scan limit OS detection to promising targets, or guess OS more aggressively. So we will just type here the basic command, which is just -o. So here we just type here nmap -o and then the 192.168.1.4, which is my Windows 10 machine. Now we can press the upper arrow in order to see how long it will take, and it should finish any second right now. And we can see right here, these are the open ports, the MAC address right here, warning, OS results may be unreliable because we could not find at least one open and one closed port. Device type general purpose, and it is just saying right here, running, just guessing, Microsoft Windows XP. Now, as you can see, this is wrong right here. I am not running the XP, I am running Windows 10, so this scan can be wrong at some times. It doesn't guess 100% every time you scan it. Now, it does guess most of the times, but as we can see right here, it didn't guess right now. Now, we can see that it gives us some of the other options as well, such as aggressive OS guesses, which is Microsoft Windows XP, SP2, Microsoft Windows Server, or Microsoft Windows Server 2008. We can see that none of these is true, so this scan didn't work for us. Let me just clear right here. Let us just try to, for example, scan the operating system of my Linux machine, which is on my laptop. The IP address of my laptop is 192.168.1.15, and let's just paste that right here. Yes, we forgot to specify the -o, which stands for the operating system scan. So let us just see right here, and as we can see, it says it is running Linux, which is correct. So basically, it will just print you the open ports, the MAC address, and the guess of the operating system that the target is running. Now, you can also do, as we can see right here, we can try to scan the scanme.nmap.org, or you can also try to scan the Metasploitable. So basically, once you open the Metasploitable, since you don't have it open right now, just type here in the command line, once you logged in with the username and password msfadmin and msfadmin, just type there ifconfig and basically find out what the IP address is on the Metasploitable and just use it from your Kali Linux machine in a Nmap scan. So right here, let me just check out the site name once again, since I will scan this one. Let me just copy it. We will type here nmap -o and then we paste the site name. Let's find out what operating system is running on that website. Now, since this is not in my local network, this will take longer to finish, as you notice right here, but not too long. It should finish any second right now. Let us just wait for this to finish so we can see our output. And the scan has finished for the scanme.nmap.org. We also got all of these ports open, which we also saw in the previous videos, and we got the operating system, and it says just guessing Linux. Now, it is probably running Linux, but we cannot do that with 100% since I don't own that machine and I don't know what type of Linux does it have. As it says right here, aggressive OS guesses Linux 4.4, 89%. Now let's see some of the other options we can also use instead of the operating system. We can cover the -sv. As we can see, it is the service and version detection. SV probe open ports to determine service version info. There are also some of the other options right here for the SV option, but we will for now on just use the -sv. So let me scan once again my Windows 10 machine. So -sv, we will also type here the -v for the verbosity, and we will type here 192.168.1.4, which is the IP address of my Windows 10 machine. Now, as I said before, you can either scan their website, scanme.nmap.org, your host machine, or your Metasploitable, in order to check out the output of this scan. So let us just see right here, it prints us the open ports. As we remember, those are these three, and hopefully it will print out the version of these services running there. And as we can see, it does, and right here we have on the open port Microsoft DS, which is the service. The version is Microsoft Windows 7 -10 Microsoft DS workgroup. The version for the NetBIOS -SSN is Microsoft Windows NetBIOS -SSN. So as we previously saw, we can even get some of the information from the version scan. As we saw in the previous scan, the operating system scan, it said for my Windows 10 machine that it was XP, and right here when we scan the version we can see Microsoft Windows 7 -10 Microsoft. So basically we can notice from that some of the operating system scans are not really correct. And you can use the common sense, which says, well, most of the people today don't even use Windows XP since it is basically an open machine. So now that we checked out the version of services running on my Windows hosts, let's check out the service and versions running on the scanme.nmap.org. So we will type once again -sv for scanning the versions, and then the name of the website. As you may have noticed, the Nmap can take the website name and the IP address as well. It doesn't just have to be the IP address, we can also type here the domain name, as you can see, and it will work properly. So let's just see at what percentage is this currently. Now it doesn't want to show us, but it should be over soon. And the scan has finished for the scanme.nmap.org, and we can see that only the open ports got the version, which is normal, since in the filter ports they have probably a firewall that is blocking our packets in order to find out what version they are running. So we can see on the open ports, which is 22 and 80, which is for the SSH, we can see that the version they're running is OpenSSH 6.6.1 Ubuntu. And on the 80 TCP open port, we can see the Apache 2.4.7 on the Ubuntu. So as we did in the previous video, if you, for example, wanted to write that into a file, just type here 2 arrows and then results.txt. Now, we won't be doing that since I already showed you how to do that. We can cover one more option in this tutorial, which will be the -A option. As we can see, it basically does multiple things, such as enable OS detection, version detection, script scanning, and traceroute. So this will enable the OS detection. It will also print out the version of the services, and it will also scan for some of the scripts. And we can see right here, if we type here nmap -v capital A and then scanme.nmap.org, we can see if the result from this scan will differ from the result of the previous scan. Now this scan can take a little bit longer since it is scanning for multiple stuff instead of just a single stuff, such as, for example, the operating system scan. This is scanning operating system and version and script and traceroute, so it will take a little bit longer. As we can see, it is discovering ports at the moment, and now it is scanning services, basically determining what version are they running. And now it is initiating OS detection, as we can see right here. Try 1, try 2, okay, it should be finishing soon enough. It says that the only 37% has finished. Okay, it should finish right here. Yeah, it finished. So you can see that this printed out a bunch of the options. For example, here under the TCP SSH port, we see the SSH host key, which is right here. I don't think that in the previous scan we even saw the 25 TCP port. Let me just check out. It doesn't even matter, I can't remember it, it was probably there. And under the Open HTTP Apache port, we can also see the version. And also here under the port 80, which is the Apache HTTP 2.4.7 Ubuntu, we can see the supported methods on the website, which are options, get, head, post. Now this is the information that we didn't really see in any of the previous scans. So let me just check out what else we have here, as well as the... So here we have the standard OS detection, which is Linux 4.4 on the 89%. And here we have the trace route. Now trace route is basically the path that my virtual machine took in order to connect to the Nmap. So we can see that we are familiar with the first IP address that it took, which is my router. So basically it is normal to have your router as a first starting point in the trace route, and then it proceeded to other DNS servers in order to find out the IP address of the Nmap. So trace route can be useful sometimes, mostly in troubleshooting, but it can be used for other things as well. We can see that the Nmap finished one IP address in 74 seconds, which is pretty good. Most of the Nmap scans can take a lot longer, even a few hours. So for now on, we will just finish the tutorial right here, and I will see you in the Nmap Part 4 tutorial in the next lecture. Now, I hope you're having a great day, and take care. Hello everybody, and welcome back to the another Nmap tutorial. But before we continue with the command line Nmap, I want to show you, for those who are interested in how to use Nmap as a GUI interface. Now, we will use a program for that, which is called Zenmap, which is basically the same thing as Nmap, just it has a graphical user interface. It comes pre-installed in Kali Linux, so we won't have to install it. And for those of you who don't want to use a graphical user interface and prefer to stay with the command line interface, you can just skip to the next video. But for those of you who prefer the graphical interface more, I will show you how to open it and use it from there. So first of all, open up your Kali Linux machine, and then in the upper left corner you will see the arrow next to the applications. So just point to that arrow and you will see a bunch of things right here. We want to go to the, I believe, information gathering. Yeah, it is right here, and scroll all the way down and you will see something called Zenmap. Now the icon, as you can see, is some kind of an eye, so just click on the Zenmap. It might ask you first time for the root password, I'm not really sure, but if it asks, just type it here and you will be prompted with this screen, which is basically the graphical user interface for the Nmap. Now, how do we use this? Well, let me just make this not too large. This is quite good. Here where it says target, you basically input the IP address. So let's say, for example, we want to scan my laptop. I will just type here 192.168.1.15. And as you can see, while I'm typing right here on the target, it is adding the same IP address into the command. And you can see right here we already have a command specified. Now you can change the output of the command with the profile. As you can see right here, it is as intense scan. If we go onto here and type here ping scan, for example, it will change the command for us, and now you can see that we have the -SN option. If we change it once again to the quick scan, it will have the -F option. Now on the left side, as you can see right here, this is hosts, in case we want to scan a range of hosts. I believe they will be right here, and the OS is the operating system running on those hosts. The Nmap output will be the same as in the command line output. Here we will have the ports, protocol, state, service and version. So if you want to, you can do some of these options, but let me do some of my options. We will use -F in order to scan it faster. And basically this -F scans top 100 ports instead of top 1000 ports. That's why it finishes faster. It's not really faster means that it performs the scan faster, it just scans less ports than the normal scan. But here on the -T4, we will type here SV so it can scan the version. And right here, once you specified your command, whether it is this one or whether it is any other of these already given options, you just click here on the scan and it should start scanning right here. As you can see, Nmap 1 IP address, 0 hosts up. It still didn't detect that my laptop is up. It probably will. Let me just try here. Well, the upper arrow doesn't work right here. So in order to see the results while you scan, just type here minus and then double V or 1V, depending on how much information you want to see during the scan. So we will wait for this to finish, or let us just start here once again with the -V, and we can see right here it basically already gave us more data, more information than the last scan. Let me just see right here. Raw packets and done, 1 IP address, 0 hosts up, scanned. Now let me just see right here if my laptop is up. It possibly isn't that IP address, I don't know why I thought it was that one. Yeah, it's not .1.15, it's .1.8. So let us redo the scan right here and let us add the -V, as we can see right here. So the -SV for the version, -V for the information showing right here, and -F for finishing the scan faster. So let us just click here, scan once again. And right now it should find my machine. As we can see, it discovered open port 5357 TCP on my laptop machine. And as we can see right here, that is basically it. Now currently on my laptop I'm running Windows, as you can see right here, OS Windows. It doesn't specify which Windows, but it doesn't really matter, we didn't even add the -O option for the operating system. It shows the MAC address of my network interface on my laptop, and it shows the open ports right here. And it also says right here, read data files from this path. So as you can see, once we scan this, we can see the hosts right here and the operating system, which is under the question mark right here. But if we perform the same scan and add -A option, not -A, -O option for the operating system. Now, if you are having struggles to remember all of the commands, you can just open up your terminal on one side and Zenmap on the other one, type here Nmap, and basically find the option you want. So -O for us is the operating system. Let me just find it right here. Here, it says right here, enable OS detection. And as you can see right here, the icon has changed, but let me just check this out. It gave us, yes, it now aggressive OS guesses is Microsoft Windows 10, which is correct. On my laptop I'm currently running Windows 10. So it gives you a bunch of other operating systems, but they are less probability than Windows 10. So basically that is about it for this Zenmap. If you want, you can perform your scans over here if you prefer this interface instead of this one. But we will continue in the next tutorials to use the command line interface, and we will cover some of the options that allow us to bypass the detection with Nmap, and also we will learn where to get the scripts and how to use them. We will also download some of our own scripts. So that's about it for this Zenmap. As I said before, you can use this one instead of this one. They're basically both the same. And I will see you in the next tutorial, where we will cover some of the other options that Nmap gives us. So I hope I see you there, and take care.